People often believe that to defeat Carlos Alcaraz, you must create miracles on the tennis court. You must hit the lines perfectly. You must run faster than you have ever run in your entire life. You must play the absolute best match of your career just to have a tiny fraction of a chance. But the truth is always more ruthless than the highlight reels on television. Jannik Sinner does not use miracles. He uses a cold tactical blueprint to suffocate the entire system of Alcaraz. Sinner turns a tennis genius of infinite variety into a helpless victim of hopeless repetition. When Carlos Alcaraz steps onto the court, he brings the brilliance of absolute chaos. He plays purely on raw instinct. He hits passing shots that completely defy physics and logic. He covers the court like a hungry predator. You watch him play and you truly feel like absolutely anything is possible. The crowd feeds on his wild energy. His opponents drown in his relentless intensity. But Jannik Sinner is the exact opposite. Sinner is a ruthless analytical machine. He is completely void of human emotion. He processes the game like a supercomputer, analyzing millions of variables per second. The victory of Sinner at the 2026 Monte Carlo Masters was not an accident. It was not a fluke. It was not just a bad day where Alcaraz happened to miss his shots. It was the flawless execution of a tactical death sentence that Sinner had drafted long before they ever stepped onto the red clay. Sinner did not try to outrun the wild variety of Alcaraz. Sinner did not try to hit better trick shots. He simply strangled the Spanish star with a mathematical formula on the tennis court. Every single rally was a calculated equation. Every single shot had a specific purpose to break the spirit of his opponent. Sinner moved with the precision of a metronome. He stripped away the magic of the Alcaraz game and replaced it with cold, hard math. To understand exactly how a machine can swallow a source of pure inspiration, we have to look at the left side of the court. We have to look at the exact spot where the death sentence for Carlos Alcaraz was declared and executed. Carlos Alcaraz operates like a massive tropical storm. He sweeps away all defensive barriers with pure muscular power and artistic execution. When you stand across the net from an irrational force like that, most players on the professional tour choose to step back. They retreat deep behind the baseline. They try to defend in pure desperation. They pray that the storm will eventually pass, and ultimately they collapse under those soul-crushing drop shots. You cannot deny the terrifying nature of the Alcaraz game. His ability to sprint and retrieve impossible balls completely breaks the spirit of his opponents. You hit what you think is a clean winner, and Alcaraz somehow gets there. His passing shots twist the bodies of defenders into unnatural positions. His drop shots are pure magic that freeze players in their tracks. He forces you to play at a chaotic speed, where mistakes are inevitable. But the coaching team of Sinner saw right through the magic. Darren Cahill and Simone Vagnozzi looked at the chaos, and they realized one undeniable truth. You cannot beat Carlos Alcaraz in a game of emotion and improvisation. If you try to match his chaotic energy, you will fail. If you try to hit harder than his spectacular winners, you will make mistakes. If you try to play his game, you will lose your mind. So Vagnozzi and Cahill did not create a defender. They forged a surgical scalpel designed to expose the most fatal weakness of the storm. Sinner is programmed to maintain one single tactical path. He never panics. He never deviates from the master plan. He maintains absolute silent discipline in the face of every unpredictable variable. This is where the concept of being completely silent becomes his greatest weapon. While Alcaraz screams and pumps his fist and rides the emotional waves of the match, Sinner remains silent. He is cold. He is calculated. He does not give Alcaraz any emotional feedback. He does not show frustration when Alcaraz hits a crazy winner. Sinner just walks back to the baseline and prepares for the next data point. This silent discipline is terrifying to play against. It is like fighting a wall that hits the ball back harder every single time. We are watching a terrifying evolution of tennis strategy right in front of our eyes. If you feel that chill down your spine watching this cold calculation dismantle pure genius, and you want to keep unraveling the absolute highest level of the sport, you need to become part of our analytical community today so we can continue this journey together. The real genius of the Vagnozzi and Cahill system is how they applied this silent pressure. They knew that Alcaraz feeds on the panic of his opponents. When you panic, Alcaraz attacks with full force, but Sinner refuses to give him that satisfaction. He stands right on the baseline, and he executes his code. He hits his spots over and over again, until the system of his opponent completely breaks down. This is not just a game of tennis anymore. This is advanced psychological warfare, disguised as a baseline rally. And the weapon Sinner used to inflict the most brutal damage was hidden in plain sight the entire time. The first strike of a blade always targets the blind spot. Instead of trying to find risky tight angles, Sinner established a tactical prison right at the baseline, forcing every ball with the flattest and heaviest trajectory possible straight into the backhand of Carlos. You look at the court and you realize Sinner is not playing tennis anymore. He is playing a game of physical chess. He deliberately ignores the open spaces. He simply locks his target into the backhand corner and turns the key. This is the first layer of the revelation. We call it the backhand prison. To understand why this is so devastating, you have to understand how Alcaraz usually escapes danger. When he gets pushed wide, he loves to use his defensive slice. He buys time. He changes the rhythm. He resets the point and then unleashes a massive forehand. He floats the ball deep and waits for his opponent to make a mistake. But Sinner completely destroyed that escape route through sheer brute force. Sinner hits the ball so incredibly flat and so incredibly heavy that it takes away the one thing Alcaraz needs most: time. The speed of the ball coming from Sinner is terrifying. It skids low on the red clay of Monte Carlo. It does not bounce up nicely into the strike zone. Alcaraz is constantly late. He cannot set his feet perfectly. He cannot prepare his swing with his usual massive takeback. He cannot hit his defensive slice because the ball is already past his hips. He is suffocating under a relentless wave of power. Sinner does not try to hit a winner on the first shot or the second shot. He hits 5 or 6 massive flat backhands in a row. He waits for the system to break. He waits for the lungs to burn. Picture this visualization on your screen right now. A glowing red heat map heavily concentrated on the backhand corner of Alcaraz. Listen to the cold and sharp sound effect of the ball striking the racket of Sinner. Bang, bang, bang. It sounds like a machine gun firing at a single target. The numbers from the 2026 Monte Carlo final expose this brutal reality. The statistics are absolutely chilling. 19 unforced errors on the backhand wing for Carlos Alcaraz. Just 9 for Jannik Sinner. 19-9. A total collapse of the Spanish fortress. Those numbers are not just statistics. They are physical evidence of a broken spirit. Every time Alcaraz tried to step around his backhand to hit a forehand, Sinner would punish the open court. So Alcaraz had to stay in the prison. He had to hit backhands. And he kept missing. He was frozen in that corner. He was a prisoner in his own mind. The frustration was visible on his face. He looked at his coaching box with absolute despair. The genius was completely trapped. You can see the exact moment the confidence drains from the eyes of Alcaraz. He starts second-guessing his own movement. He starts arriving a fraction of a second late to every ball. The heavy baseline strikes from Sinner act like body blows in a boxing match. They wear you down round after round. You might survive the first set, but by the second set, your legs feel like concrete. The backhand wing of Alcaraz became a leaking ship, and Sinner just kept pouring water into it until it sank. Taking away the left side was just the isolation of the target. The thing that truly crushed Alcaraz lies in how Sinner stripped away his most dangerous weapon right from the moment of the serve. But a tactical blueprint will collapse if it lacks a perfect launching station. Sinner used to possess a serve that only stopped at an acceptable level until he turned it into a sniper rifle with a damage rate of up to 80%. You cannot execute a baseline prison if you are constantly defending your own serve. So Sinner completely rebuilt his delivery with Darren Cahill. He changed his toss. He changed his motion. He transformed his biggest liability into his most lethal weapon. He does not serve to hit a flashing ace. He serves to create the perfect execution on the very next shot. We call this the +1 shot. Watch the rapid-fire highlights of his service games right now. The energy is intense. The tempo is incredibly fast. The thriller music in the background matches his heart rate. Serve out wide. Massive forehand to the open court. Point over. Serve down the tee. Heavy backhand to the corner. Point over. He dictates the geometry of the court before Alcaraz even has a chance to swing. He wins over 70% of his first serve points against the best returner in the world. He builds an impenetrable wall right from the baseline. This brings us to the ultimate revelation. What does a genius do when his ground strokes are trapped and his return game is neutralized? He panics. He resorts to magic. He uses the drop shot. Alcaraz loves the drop shot. It is his signature weapon to break the rhythm of his opponents. He uses it to humiliate the best players in the world. But against Sinner, the magic completely disappeared. It turned into a fatal liability. I want to pause right here and ask you something crucial. Did you ever notice how Alcaraz only uses the drop shot against Sinner when he is desperate and not when he is in control? Tell me in the comments below if you think the drop shot is actually the biggest weakness of Alcaraz when he plays Sinner, because I think it exposes his panic perfectly. When Alcaraz gets frustrated in the baseline rallies, he pulls the trigger on the drop shot too early. He hits it from behind the baseline. He hits it without setting his feet. He hits it out of pure desperation, and Jannik is waiting. Sinner possesses incredibly long legs and a massive wingspan. He reads the play before Alcaraz even makes contact. He glides to the net with terrifying speed and simply taps the ball away into the open court. Sinner punishes the panic. He punishes the impatience. He makes the magic trick look foolish. This is the ultimate clash of tennis psychology. Carlos Alcaraz is explosive. He takes massive risks because he believes his talent will save him. He plays high-risk tennis and accepts the errors. But Jannik operates with iron discipline. He maintains complete and absolute silence on the court. Do you remember how quiet he was at Monte Carlo? He never took the bait. He never chased the crazy angles. Alcaraz would try to bring him to the net with junk balls. Sinner would calmly hit a passing shot. Alcaraz would try a massive loop high into the air to change the pace. Sinner would calmly take it out of the air with a swinging volley. Sinner does not play the game of Alcaraz. He forces Alcaraz to play the game of Sinner. He drags him into the deep waters of a 20-shot rally and drowns him with consistency. The Italian player does not need to hit the line every time. He just needs to hit the ball deep enough and heavy enough until the Spanish star finally breaks down and makes a mistake. He relies on cold logic. When every tactical escape route is blocked off, the collapse of a genius does not just come from a physical breakdown, but from a cruel and exhausting psychological erosion. Statistics can sometimes be the greatest liars if you do not know how to look deeply into them. At the Monte Carlo clay court in 2026, Carlos Alcaraz launched 16 winner points compared to 13 from Sinner, but the Spaniard left the court as a complete failure. How does a player hit more clean winners and still lose a tennis match on clay? You have to look back at the French Open final in 2025 to understand the evolution. Back then, Sinner took a commanding 2-set lead, but completely collapsed physically and mentally. Alcaraz wore him down with pure stamina. He made Sinner crack under the immense pressure of the Parisian crowd. The Spanish prodigy ran after every single ball and slowly drained the life out of the Italian system. Sinner was breathing heavily. His shots lost their terrifying depth. The machine broke down. But the Jannik of 2026 is a completely different biological entity. He took that brutal defeat in Paris and went straight to the laboratory to fix the glitches in his operating system. In Monte Carlo, Sinner did not care about hitting beautiful winners. He cared about one ugly little statistic called forced errors. When Alcaraz hits a running forehand winner down the line, the crowd goes wild. The commentators scream into their microphones. It looks spectacular on television. It gets millions of views online, but it only counts as one single point on the scoreboard. Sinner realized he does not need the spectacular points. He just needs the ugly points. A forced error happens when Sinner hits a ball so incredibly heavy and so deep that Alcaraz physically cannot put it back into the court. It does not look like a highlight reel shot. It looks like a simple mistake by Alcaraz. The ball flies into the net or sails long, but it is not a mistake. It is an engineered failure. Sinner forces Alcaraz into bad defensive positions over and over again. Every time Alcaraz tries to hit his way out of trouble, he misses by just a few inches. Sinner collects those points in absolute silence. He builds his lead one boring mechanical stroke at a time. He makes the spectacular elements of the Alcaraz game completely irrelevant. This is why the stat sheet looks so strange to the casual fan. Alcaraz gets the glorious winners, but Sinner gets the actual victory. And here is a secret insight that almost nobody knows about the coaching philosophy of Darren Cahill. Starting in late 2025, Cahill and his team made a strict rule for Sinner during their intense practice sessions and professional matches. They demanded that Sinner show absolutely zero emotion when he misses a crucial shot. No racket drops, no looking up at the sky in despair, no shaking his head in frustration. They trained him to instantly reset his facial expression to pure ice. They knew that Alcaraz feeds on the visible frustration of his opponents. When Alcaraz sees you break down, he attacks like a shark smelling blood. By completely eliminating any emotional leakage, Sinner became an intimidating blank wall. He built this ruthless silence drop by drop. When Alcaraz looks across the net after hitting an impossible trick shot, he sees a man who does not care. He sees a machine already standing at the baseline, ready for the next point. Winning on clay is not just another title for Janniksinner. It is the absolute death knell for the belief that Alcaraz cannot be touched on his home surface. Clay was supposed to be the safe haven for the Spanish artistic style. The slow surface naturally gives Alcaraz the extra time he desperately needs to set up his massive ground strokes and weave his magic. But Sinner proved that his flat, heavy baseline strikes can cut through the slow, red dirt just as easily as they cut through a fast, hard court. He penetrated the defensive shields of Alcaraz on the exact surface, designed to protect him. Sinner took the ultimate test, and he passed it with terrifying ease. What Jannik achieved at Monte Carlo 2026 goes far beyond the framework of a simple Masters tournament final. He exposed a cruel truth to the entire professional tennis ecosystem. Pure artistry, high entertainment value, and infinite inspiration can be completely extinguished by absolute geometric precision. Sinner has drawn the ultimate blueprint to neutralize one of the most complete tennis players in history. He uses blinding speed. He uses mechanical consistency. He uses a mind entirely made of ice. The implication for the rest of the ATP Tour is absolutely devastating. Top 10 players used to lay awake at night worrying about the chaotic genius of Carlos Alcaraz. They worried about how to stop a player who can hit winners from the stands. Now they have to face a machine with absolutely zero identifiable weaknesses. How do you beat a player who never gives you a free point? How do you crack a baseline defense that never gets tired? How do you intimidate a man who does not feel pressure? Sinner is taking all the glory in a terrifyingly quiet manner. He does not need the crowd to chant his name. He does not need the viral clips on social media platforms. He just needs to execute his coded tactical plan and collect the championship trophies. The new tennis empire has been established in complete silence, and the biggest question now is not who can beat Sinner, but whether anyone has the physical and mental capacity to withstand the suffocating pressure this machine creates. Will Carlos Alcaraz find a way to evolve his game and break out of this tactical baseline prison? Or are we about to witness the beginning of a cold and ruthless monopoly over the tennis world? You need to know exactly how the rest of the tour will respond to this terrifying new world order, so hit that subscribe button right now, because we will be tracking every single tactical adjustment on the road to the next Grand Slam, and you absolutely do not want to miss the answer.